What is up, guys? So today we're going to be installing the Rolux Cut dual adjustment knobs. So this is going to be a direct fit onto any Rolux reel mower. So whether you have a S series or an X series, doesn't matter. These will fit on it because the side plates are exactly the same on each mower. These take the place of the single Cut adjustment knob on that right side. So these will bolt on two sides and you'll be able to independently adjust the cut on each side of your mower. And then right now I'm going to cover the tools that you're going to need for the job. So here are the tools that we're going to be using for this job. One's going to be a towel and you'll see why. Another one is going to be a 13mm socket, 17mm socket, and then also a handle to go along with it. Needle nose pliers, these come in handy. An adjustable wrench, it doesn't have to be this big, but something that's adjustable and that can grab onto the nut, the lock nut on the cut knob, the existing one. Something small like this that you can grab hold to, this is going to help us take off the roller. There's a sleeve on the roller that has a little hole in it. This just has to be able to fit into that hole. So it doesn't have to be an Allen wrench. It can be something small like this. It just has to go into that hole and prevent that collar from spinning, and you'll see when we take it off. 17mm wrench, 19mm wrench, 13mm wrench, 10mm wrench. Those wrenches are the sizes that you'll need. Blue Loctite, make sure it's not red, but make sure it's blue. I know the bottle is red, but make sure it's blue. The blue is removable, the red is permanent. So we want to be able to potentially take off the roller one day down the road if we need to do some repairs or whatever, but make sure it's blue. Flathead screwdriver. And then an impact drill. An impact drill is going to be a lifesaver when we're taking off that 13mm bolt on the roller. So make sure that is impact. If it's not impact, it's going to be probably extremely hard, especially if there's blue Loctite on it already. An impact is going to help break all of that loose and make sure that it comes off. So these are the tools that you need. All right, so let's get into the bolts that we're going to be focusing on and then how these brackets get installed. So you'll see two holes right here, or two bolts and screws in here. So the first one that we're going to be taking out is going to be the 17mm bolt that is holding on this roller bracket. So take this out, then you'll be left with a hole that the bottom of the brackets will go into. The bolt is included, but that's where the bottom hole is. And then right here where this brass, it's like a brass bolt with a spring on it, you'll take that out and you will not be reusing this nut. So the brackets themselves have a threaded hole. That's where this screws into, but you will not have to reuse this nut. Then we will be taking this off. You will not ever need to use this with these cut brackets. You can take this and keep it or throw it away, do whatever you want with it. So we'll be taking that off. I'll show you how to do that, as well as this little nut that's holding this on. You'll take that off. All right, so the first step we're going to do is we need to take off this cut knob assembly, the original one. So this is in three pieces. So you've got the knob right here, then you have a lock nut underneath that, and then you have this arm assembly underneath here. So we'll be splitting that up into three separate pieces. So 1, 2, 3. So first step is to get your adjustable wrench, place it onto this nut right here. And then this is going to be depending on how tight your knob is. So some people will need to use a wrench. Some people can just do it by hand. Some people, if they have that 3D printed knob, they can do it with that. Or a towel. I like to use a towel. If I can't get it with a towel, I'll usually like grab some sort of wrench or something like that and loosen it. But your goal is you want to turn this counterclockwise, and then the nut you want to turn clockwise. So you're splitting them apart. So you'll take this, and this should break loose from that nut. See how I broke that loose? So this itself will spin and it will not change the height of cut. So you've separated this knob. So you screw it off, take it off like that. Don't need this anymore. All right, so this next step is we're going to have to separate this lock nut from this assembly right here. So what I like to do is grab these pliers, and you can either do this by hand, but you're going to back it out nice and gently so that this lock nut comes loose, because that's just going to make this piece a lot easier just to come out once it's loose. All right, so that nut is off. So now we're going to take this nut off down here, and then this assembly should slide right out, come out of this hole, and that's off. All right, so once this 10mm nut is off of this inside arm, what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab this right here. I like to lift it up a little bit so that there's no pressure just on this arm right here. So I'm gonna lift it up just a tad. You see the machine move up just a tad? So lift the machine up a tad. Pull it out, and then we're gonna twist this forward and pull it straight out. Now we're gonna get to these 17mm bolts right here on the side. All right, so next is gonna be this 13mm bolt. We need something to hold this collar in. So that's why I get like a little Allen key or Allen wrench, whatever it is. Something to stick into this hole, because if we were to take the impact driver and back this out, this will spin and this won't come out. So you need something to stop this. You're gonna put your finger right there, make sure that the impact driver is on loosen, and it should pop it loose right there. If there is a little bit of blue Loctite on there from the factory, that impact driver will pop it off. And then same thing over here. Putting something in this hole right here, impact driver, backs it right out, and the roller is off. All right, so the roller is off. We just take that, and then this is the bracket that goes along with it. We do not need this whatsoever. Okay, so last we are going to take off this brass bolt, the thing that's holding this little spring right here. So this little spring, we want to make sure that we put this back on, because that's what allows this, when you're adjusting the reel to bed knife, that's what allows this to move up and down with this bolt up here. So you definitely want to make sure that we keep the spring in place. So we're just going to take a flathead screwdriver and you just pop that past the bolt right there, and it comes right out pretty easily like that. So once that spring is off, we want to take a 13mm socket, back this out, but then on this other side, there's this nut over here. We want to take a 13mm wrench and hold that just so that it's not spinning. And this nut that was on the other side, we do not need this. So we can discard this, put it away, save it for later. The only piece that we are going to be reusing on this entire setup is going to be this spring that was on this gold bolt right here. I don't know if it's brass or whatever, but and this bolt. So this shoulder bolt is the only thing that we're going to be reusing. That's going to go in here, and this is directly going to thread onto the brackets themselves just through this hole here. All right, so this right here is where we're going to be putting them. What I like to do before I install these brackets onto here is I like to take this bolt and just put it through, thread it through first, just because there's a little bit of powder coat possibly like in there. In the past, this has just made it a lot easier to line up and put these in. So I like to install this bolt first and then back it out just to make sure that there's nothing just in those threads and stuff like that. It'll make it a lot easier to install. So this is the orientation for that spring. So you want this back end pointing up and then this front end pointing down. Get it through that hole, and we're gonna line the bracket up, and that bracket fits right up to that bolt right there, and we're just gonna hand tighten it for now. And then this this bolt right here, this bolt and nut, goes through, you guessed it, that bottom hole. And we're just gonna go ahead and hand tighten that too. So that's basically what we're gonna be doing. So I'm gonna tighten this down. At the end, you want to make sure that this, this bracket is touching the frame on each side, but make sure that these are tight. You do not want to over tighten this brass bolt right here. It can strip, so this is more so just to make it tight and fit good and not go back and forth. So make sure you do not over tighten this bolt right here. Once it's snug, it's good. This one, however, you can tighten that sucker up. This is going to be the strength, and then this is just making sure that it stays straight. All right, so for this spring right down here, you should be able to push it with your fingers. So you'll just want to make sure that it is avoiding that nut right over there. Take your thumb and just push it right back down there. All right, so we've got the brackets officially installed. Next is gonna be the roller. So we're gonna take the 13mm bolts that came in the kit, put them through here, make sure that that washer is on the outside, and then the roller will go in here. This is where we want to put the blue Loctite to make sure that these don't back out of the roller when you're mowing. So we're going to tighten that up and make sure that you also do the key to make sure that the collar doesn't spin. So you want to put this in the hole and then tighten it up. And you can use a wrench here, you can use a socket, you can use an impact, whatever you want to use here to put it in. All right, so now that I have it installed, I just want to go over briefly how this works. So this right here is the knob that you're going to turn to make it go up and down. So this roller, each side, remember you're going to, if you adjust the right side, you're going to adjust the left side, especially if you're changing the height of cut. But this knob right here, you can turn it either way and it will either raise or lower your height of cut. Always make sure that this is loose when you're doing that. If this is tight and you're trying to turn this knob, it doesn't work. So make sure that this nut right here is loose. That's going to make sure that the system slides up and down. When you're done measuring and you've measured each side and you got the height of cut that you want on both sides, then you're going to go ahead and tighten this nut down. Once it's tight, it will not move. So this is set. This roller will be absolutely stiff. It will not have any play in it. Now back to measuring. So you're gonna want to, if you change out to this system and you change away from the single height of cut knob and you go to this dual one, you will need a way of measuring. In the future, I'll make a video on maybe some DIY hacks on what to use, but quite the easiest way is either an AccuGauge, which is fairly expensive, but that's what people use on greens mowers. That's how you tell your height of cut, is you can do an AccuGauge to tell how what your height of cut is. Or you can span like a piece of metal or a piece of wood from the front roller to the back roller and then take a ruler, hook it on that bed knife and see exactly how high you're cutting. So if you're going for 3/4 of an inch, take a piece of wood or piece of metal that goes from here to there, make sure it's straight, and then take your ruler, put the hook on there and pull it down. And if it hits 3/4 of an inch on that ruler, then you know that this side is cutting 3/4 of an inch, and then you do it the same the other side. As soon as you have them both level, then you can go ahead and lock it in and you're ready to mow. Hope this helps. Happy mowing.